Well, hi, Sherman. Welcome to the Author Revolution podcast. I'm really excited to bring you onto the show today to talk about all the things. But before we get started, can you tell my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
I'm Sherman Perryman. I'm the founder of Militant Grind, which is a mindset coaching program. We have coaching, we also have physical training, and I also am a host for the Militant Grind podcast as well.
It's so cool. It is so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my audience who doesn't know about the Militant Grind, can you introduce them to the philosophy and what inspired you to create this ethos?
The philosophy is all of us being the best versions of ourselves. I feel like that's like above all. And in order to do that, we need to be in control and harness our mind, body, and spirit.
So
So
great.
all those three have to be intact in order for you to become whole. And sometimes people like get militant grind misconstrued. They think I was in the military or something like that. Like I actually wasn't at all ever, but I come from a military background as far as like how I was raised. My father was in the Army, grandfather in the Navy. I have a
Sure.
brother that's active duty, sergeant first class right now. So if you can, as you can tell, like I come from a very militant structured background, and I was trying to create a brand that mostly resonated with me and who I am at the core. And so I was just meditating, thinking like, what should I call it, et cetera? Who am I? And then the name Militant Grind popped up, and it was just like a unused name, like
Yeah.
militantgrind.com was available. No one was really using it. And the internet, there's billions of people that have, used the internet. So I was just like, what? There's a name and I could actually take it and it's there and nobody has ever used it. And it just seemed like it was just so simple. So
Yeah.
I figured out that militantgrind.com was available. I was like, okay, cool, snatched it. And it actually has been one of the best things that, I probably ever done. Cause I started a lot of different businesses. And I'm also a pretty popular person where I'm from, and I've never received so much support for anything I've ever done besides this.
I love
Like, so
that.
some of my friends will be like, you tried this, you tried that, you did all these different things, just as an entrepreneur. But what you're doing now, that's you, bro. Like, yeah, because it was
Yeah.
like my passion was like helping people, giving advice, mindset advice, trying to get people to see life in a different way. And I'll just do that for fun. I'll
Heck yes.
type
Yeah.
something up, put it on Facebook, and see what people think. And a lot of people resonate with a lot of the stuff that I wrote and that I put up there. So I was like, let's just figure out a way to make money or make a living impacting people, and as well as doing something that I'm passionate about. So here
That's
I
so
am.
cool. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, my brain's like, okay, already a couple things. Number one, I love that you meditated and it came to you because I teach that sort of thing all the time where it's like allow the thoughts to kind of like come. And when you do that, you're in alignment with who you are, which obviously you were, right? You got
Mhm.
the insight, the inspired action, if you will, and you took it off and running and did what you could. And it was like so easy because the next logical steps were there and it was ready to go. I love that. I also
Thank you.
love having people shift their perception, and that's kind of my favorite part about being in author revolution, where it's like allowing authors who want to kind of break the conventional and go into the unconventional when it comes to their thinking, the way they use their author career, all the things. I love that. It just makes me happy as well, so it's so cool. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your book because from grit to greatness is the book, right?
Mhm.
And you
Right.
discuss the five pillars of the militant grind. So, number one, I want to know like what inspired you to write the book, and number two, could you break down the pillars for us?
Yeah. Well, a friend actually inspired me to write a book, and she was just like, "You need something tangible that people could have, do an ebook, etc." And I was just like, so I started writing it and the ebook version, and she was like, "Oh, this is cool." Then I was like, "Why would I write an ebook when I could actually like write a real book?" And I had a friend that actually published a book, and so he, gave me the information on how to do it, etc. And how I can make it happen. I actually interview him on my podcast. So
So
interviewing
good.
people on my podcast has like changed my life drastically because I have like a connection that I'll be able to benefit from. So if I would have never had the podcast, it probably would have never happened. So
Wow.
and also some fellow authors and things like that gave me some advice how I should structure it, how I should write it, start with the outline, writing like it's no tomorrow, And then after a while, you go ahead and you read it and you be like, oh, this is crap. But then you just do it again. You know what I mean? So that actually
That's when the
happened to me a
editing
lot.
begins. Yes.
Oh my God. It was like, like say after you write it, you putting your all into it, then you read it after a couple of days, you'd be like, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
That happened.
That
Oh,
happens
sorry. So
often
that
and very
happened.
frequent. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened so many times. And yeah, so I was like, okay, what really resonates with me when it comes to the five pillars, because they were like, yeah, you should do like five pillars. And I was like, okay. And then I thought love, honor, strength, discipline, and wisdom. Right. And so I'm like, all of those are like the top things that resonate with me. And I feel like if you have all of those, you should be pretty much solid throughout your life. Like nothing should be able to break you if you have love, honor, strength, discipline, and wisdom. Like you could go and that could almost be all that you need as a foundation. And so with love, I feel like love is first, and love is very important, and it's also overshined as far as like how Western society looks at love. It's like love is in everything, love is everywhere. Love is not just, hey, I want to date you and make love to you. And like,
Yeah.
no, love could be your neighbor, how you doing? Hey, are you okay today? They're showing love, and love is expressed in many different forms, many different ways, and it's not just sexual or intimacy or physical intimacy like what we try to portray. And it's funny because I talked about that this past weekend. I was like, man, I'll talk to actually a gay associate of mine, right? So it was a gay man, and we were just talking about the way the world is. And I was just like, man, I went to Dubai, which is a Middle Eastern Muslim country, not gay at all whatsoever, right?
Mm.
And a man had grabbed my hand and held my hand, and we were walking together, you know?
Okay.
And so
Wow. And you're like,
uh,
why not? Let's go.
yeah, because I'm like, I know he wasn't trying to, based off where
Yeah.
we were at, but he held my hand like in a firm way, like we're walking together as brothers. And I was like, Western society has like perverted almost every kind of way to express love. Like say in other
Yeah.
countries, some people are touchy feely, like they like to touch you, they like to embrace you. Like, some places men kiss each other on the cheek, and a stranger will see a kid and be like, come here, and give the kid a kiss. And out here we'll be like, hey, what are you doing?
Right.
So, and I remember I was working at a place, and the lady, she was Latino, and she met me for the first time, and she kissed me on the cheek. And I was just like, what? Like, what's going on? But I recognize like people are okay with freely expressing love in certain cultures. And it's not that, they're trying to hit on you or anything like that or invading your personal space. So I talk about like things like that in the book, as well as self-love, which is very important. And I say that, the golden rule in life is to treat others how you treat yourself. But the first thing I would like people to do is love themselves, so you can treat others with love. Now usually
Yeah.
people treat other people in a way that they see like it's like a reflection of themselves and other people. So if somebody is usually happy and they love themselves, they're full of joy, they're going to treat you the same way. And then with that, I've learned not to take things personal when people treat you with some kind of way. Is more so something inside of them.
Right.
And self-love is what drives people to be successful, to work hard. Like there's nothing that'll get a woman, or let's say a mother up at night to take care of a something that's screaming, every 2 to 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll tell people like you can't even prepare for having kids. It's like as soon as they're there, you have to just, like nothing's gonna prepare you to wake up to a child screaming, and you change them and feed them, and then you can go back to sleep for 2 hours and get up. Like
Yeah.
so it's like all of that is love. And then with honor, it's more so like respectable. I grew up in the streets of LA, and it was gang infested and gangland and all of these, crime, violence, and all of this stuff. And I learned that if you move with honor, amongst those, people that are a part of that life, you'll get ahead. And if you're not the
Sure.
aggressor, and if you don't, you know, push people to that point, if you're respectable, people out here, it's like, it's still politics when it comes to that type of lifestyle. But if you're an honorable person, you could make it a long way, in everything that you do, and including your life. And then honor discipline is very important when it comes to any type of success that you want. And, I would say, like, it's easy for me to put motivation in there, but I think the motivation is BS. I feel like discipline is what's
Yeah.
gonna get you far. And I tell people, I'm a physical fitness type of guy, and they're like, I'm like, I'm not motivated to go to the gym. I push myself to go to the gym. Like, I don't you think I want to go inside of a building full of people sweating and, working out for an hour and a half? Like, no, you're never gonna be motivated to do that. I'd rather do something else. But I have the discipline in me to go there and perform, and I talk
Yeah.
about how Kobe Bryant and how he was very disciplined. And then at the end, I talk about how your discipline could also be your detriment in a kind of way if you're not careful. So with
Sure.
everything, I kind of like, I have like the good side to it, and then at the end, the bad, not the bad side, but like like if
Cautionary
you,
tale.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like something of that sort. Um, and then love, honor, discipline. Golly, love, honor, discipline, strength. I'm sorry. So
It
strength, right?
I totally
Strength.
get it.
Yeah, so I'm about, growing up, I talk about how I just love wrestling and, Arnold Schwarzenegger and all of these different strong guys. And
Right.
I wanted to be strong. So I started working out at a very young age, in high school. Like, I was always pretty fit, like no one ever could remember a time where I was not a fit person ever in my life. I can't even joke about that. And with that, I've also mentioned how mental strength is also very important for you to be able to, like, go through your life. And that's the most important, because somebody that's mentally strong could overpower somebody that's physically strong, with no problem at all. Both are important,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to be the strongest guy in the room, but you got to have a little something, like a strong mind, strong body. And that's something that I also teach my kids. I'm like, in order for your body to be strong, you also have to have a strong mind, and vice versa. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah.
and then yeah, wisdom is pretty deep, because I go through scenarios in my life where if I didn't listen to wisdom, I probably could have been dead or been in a bad situation.
Right.
Because you have to listen to your, the wise person in your mind that tells you, oh no, you need to do this, you need to do that, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. And
Yep.
I often and I also give, I'm not trying to give away like too much in the book, because it's pretty short. So I'm trying to, like, yeah. So because I'm like, if I talk about it, why would people read it like that?
Oh,
But
heck yeah, they'll still read it because they'll still learn a whole lot.
right, right,
Absolutely.
right, right. And so with wisdom, I just go through, like, how it's best for you to use wisdom throughout your life. And wisdom comes with time, experiences, you know,
Hmm.
uh like, and basically time, like, and yeah, time and experiences. That's how wisdom comes to you. And also
Yeah.
listening to your intuition and your higher self.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so key, having that, like, that holistic view of the world, of yourself, of like
Mhm.
what you get to have and how you get to move through this space, because I think so many of us compartmentalize aspects of our lives, whether it be just like meditation, just physicality, that we don't really think about the integration of it all. And I think
Yeah.
that is so important when it comes to success and becoming ultimately what we're going to become, or what we need to become, right?
1000%. And I tell people, self-care is a full-time job. Like,
Right.
oh my God,
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
like you almost have to cut off, like a lot of stuff in order to have self-care. Cause it's like, man, especially if you're a man, or, somebody that's in a position to lead, it's like you have to learn things, that because things are happening at a rapid pace. You have to be strong, you have to, be healthy, you have to cook your food, you gotta, learn
Right.
about finance. It's like it's just too much that you have to embrace in order to be successful for you to like entertain any type of foolishness at all with your
Right.
time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I completely understand that. We're trying to teach that to the teenagers right now. It doesn't always hit right. They're like, but
Right.
why?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I tell my
Yeah,
daughter that too. I'm like, you could be researching something that could make you a millionaire. Like, but you're
right.
spending all this time playing Fortnite and Roblox. Like,
Yes.
you could start an online business and be rich at your
Dude,
age.
you could
Like,
you could create a store inside like Roblox or Fortnite and be rich. You could
come
do
on.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, something. So yeah, I'm with it. But it's like, when there's no necessity, then it's like, you know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
can't figure out. But I think I have to create a necessity in order to create the willpower, you know? Like, oh, you
Right.
want to go here? Oh, that sounds good. Start an online business,
I love that. Yeah,
you
right?
know?
Think
Yeah,
about
because
three different ways you could make money this weekend. Go.
that's exactly that's a takeaway from this from this show for sure. Because my dad did that to me. It was like,
Sure.
oh, if you want it, figure it out. But that
Yeah.
creates creativity, willpower, and
Oh, it so
like
does.
discipline. It's like, man, I was a young kid selling candy at school, making quite a bit of money. Buying my
Right?
own school clothes. But it's not that he probably I mean, more than likely they couldn't afford to buy me the clothes that I wanted. But I had to make a way if I wanted it. But these
Yeah.
kids nowadays, it's just like, I don't even think they care about dressing nice anymore.
I don't know. I think there's definitely a few of them. Like you've got we have six kids total. Now there's only three in the house. But like we've had kids that don't
What?
care at all, right? It's crazy.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, whoa, whoa, whoa. I didn't even think you were a mother. You had six kids?
We have six kids. Yeah. So my husband has four. I have two, and then we have one together. So technically, one of his four is mine as well. So there's six kids total. My oldest is
Wow.
18, and he's one of the I don't care about clothes at all, like nothing. But if you give him a goal, like he wanted to get his computer or his car, then he's off and running. He's doing it. My daughter,
Yeah.
on the other hand, she likes to dress nice, but she wants it all taken care of for her. And it's like we're trying to teach her, like these things you have to pay for, and it doesn't always go over well. She's 15.
Mhm.
And so it's always like we're the evil ones because we're trying to make her come up with
Or-
ways to do these things. It's always interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's good to hear. Oh my God. I thought I was because it's rare to find other parents, you know what I'm saying? And you look young too, so I
Oh,
wouldn't even
well,
think
thank you.
that,
So do
you
you.
know. Thank you, thank you. My kids for sure aren't nowhere near 18, but hey.
Right? I can't believe that's even, and I was old. I was 26 when I had them. So it's crazy. I can't believe it's already been that long. So it's
Wow.
wild. Yeah, it's
Wow.
it
Yeah, my
it goes
oldest
really
is
fast.
turning 11 in a couple months, but
It'll
whew,
go fast.
yeah,
It'll go
and
fast.
I have four kids, and they all have totally different personalities, which is kind
Hmm.
of crazy. But yeah, and
Yeah.
then also writing the book was like something good because I'm like, I've been witnessing a lot of deaths within my community, even at my old age, well, not old age, but middle age. And
I think
I
you might
was
have just
like, I
called
want
me
to
old
leave
because of
something.
that. Come on now.
Right. And I'm like, I want to leave something behind for my kids,
Yeah.
and for them to be like, okay, your grandfather or your dad or your uncle or something just wrote a book, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
also want to do more because it's like I
And
want to
created a
leave
movement.
thoughts that I have like behind, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, so when you were writing your book, I mean, obviously all of the authors who are listening, they know how difficult writing books are and like getting
Mhm.
everything done. Was there any like specific challenge that you faced while you were writing it? Like, was it difficult? Did it come easy? Or did you apply some of the militant grind pillars to overcome the challenges?
Um, the only hard part was me, um, like letting it be probably,
Mm,
because I'll always, because I was like, man, once you put it out there, there's no going back. Like you don't want to make yourself look like this or look like that. Like if you come
sure.
out with it, it has to be on point. So I would like I would read every single line, like in detail, because I'm the type of person. where it's like whatever I read, I want it to be impactful from the jump. I
Right.
don't want to read any fluff. And that's what irritates me to my core when it comes to certain books. It's like, come on, man. Like you're just putting this in here to make the book long. Like this means
Right.
absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying?
You like short emails to the point, don't you?
Yeah, like
Yeah, me
that's what I'm
too.
about. Like
Yeah.
I'm not trying to read like, like say I'm reading a book and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot read anything ever from this author because it's like you're saying remedial stuff that, that doesn't need to be in there just to make your book long, just to say you wrote a book. So
Right.
with my book, I was like, every single line in there has to mean something and be impactful to the reader, and with that strategy, but it's like, okay, I got to write this book for me as well as for the audience. So, I wrote it for me, but then I had somebody read it and they were like, a lot of people that's going to read this book isn't going to be college educated and super smart. So you might have to dumb it down a little bit. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh, right. Like, because I have two bookshelves in my house. I have books all on my desk everywhere, and I have audiobooks. So I'm like an avid reader, but I had to step back and think about the audience. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna rewrite it again. I'm gonna input this scenario. I'm gonna do this. Okay, this needs to get out there. Okay, I could put this in there, and I felt like I was just too critical to a point where I was just like, and the publisher was just like waiting on me, like, hey man, come on, what's going on? And I was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna just send this to him. Like, I'm done.
You
It
could
was
have
just I
had
was
two different variations. You could have had like the step two if you're like get it, if you understand, and then the like entry level version where you're like really softening the like high level overview of everything. You know what I mean? You could have had two.
yeah.
What are you doing, man?
Yeah, yeah. Volume 1 and yeah, I could have did
Yeah.
something like that. That is true though. That is true. I'm probably gonna take notice of that. Yeah, because I'm also writing like two more books too. I just have to like, actually set the time and write because I'm like, with the way publishing is now, it's effortless. So you should be able to write at least every Sunday just to get some thoughts out there. And I have a friend that's he actually wrote a book and he's injured. He can't work out or do anything, right? And I was just like, oh, well, I guess you could just write another book now,
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
like, you just have to take the time to actually do it and, not be
Find that
too hard on
discipline, right?
yourself. Huh?
Find that discipline, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
there you
definitely.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I had to use all of the pillars for the book, like for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm actually just so surprised at the reactions I get from it. Like I'm just like, wow, people really love it. And then I'll read like a review and I'm like, because sometimes people leave a review because they know you and they favor you. But there's this
Sure.
one review that I read and I'm like, who the hell is this person? Because I'm just
Yeah.
like promoting it within my circle, but this review is kind of like somebody I have no clue who it is. And I posted it up thinking that somebody would say something, but I was just like, wow, man, I'm just so glad that, the energy that I put into this could resonate with other individuals in this kind of way. People saying it changed my life. It helped me through a dark time.
Oh,
I'm
good.
seeing life differently. And I'm just like, wow, man, like, look at the power of your thoughts and what it could actually do for people, and that's the most rewarding thing ever is to hear. And actually, it's crazy because I have a podcast where my friend was hosting my podcast, interviewing me in person. And,
Okay.
he's an elderly guy. He's 50, from Oregon. And he was just like, man, I was going through a dark time and I was reading your book. And, man, I'm trying not to cry, but it really hit me, it really helped me out in my
Yeah.
dark time. And I'm looking like, what? Are you serious? But it happens that way,
Yeah. The right
Yeah.
things come into your life at the right times. Like when you're ready, the teacher comes. You happen to be the teacher.
Right.
So
Right.
good.
Yeah, and we all could be teachers with what we're gifted at and with what we know, and that's one
Right.
thing that a lot of people don't understand is like you don't have to be, a millionaire or have a Lamborghini in the front yard in order to teach somebody something. Like we all
Right.
mastered some things, but some people they just don't know how to exploit it, for monetary gains, and some people don't want to exploit things for monetary gain. I
Yeah.
know some people that are phenomenal singers and artists, and they're just like, you know what, man, I just want to play music and live my life, and I don't want to be traveling around the world and have to go through all that. I'll just rather pay at local shows and, do my thing, and that's okay,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has their own version of what the perfect life gets to look like.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Exactly.
good.
And I've come to respect that because as an entrepreneur, it's like you think about ways where you could exploit, and, make money and take advantage. And I'm just like, you know what? People could be okay with just like, living a simple life, just doing what they love. And they don't have to
Mm.
be rich for somebody to say that they know what they're doing, like,
Yeah.
and that's where I think that's where, like, a lot of us get, especially in American society, we think that if you're not rich, you must not be doing something right.
Right? Yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree with you. And I think a lot of us also think, especially from the author spectrum, we all think that like you can't even earn a living anyway from your writing. So why bother? You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
there's always like such a weird, I don't know, energy or juxtaposition between like we want it to be successful, but we don't think we can get it successful. Like it's like we're constantly in this tug of war. And because of that capitalistic society mentality, we're constantly pushing ourselves to get it to do something that maybe we don't actually even at our core want, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's our limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
it's our limiting beliefs that tell us that because, I remember putting out a post years ago saying I want to be an author, and somebody was like, just start writing, just do it, and people used to always
Yeah.
tell me you should write a book because, and even my dad used to like make fun of me about how I would write things on Facebook, and he'll be like, how does your mind even come up with all that? Because I'm just like, and I'm writing a paragraph just, off the top of my head. And people were just like, wow, and
Have you
I
gone
had
through and
like a
like
lot
pulled
of,
all those together and created a book based off of that?
yeah, that's what I actually thought about that today because I
Yeah.
went through Facebook they have on this day,
Yep.
and you can see the things they use for. I'm like, wow, I was a pretty deep thinker 10, 12 years ago, and
Right.
maybe I could pull some of those ideas and come up with, some type of book. And, one I have another book coming out called No More Pain. And it's just basically about how, a lot of people that I grew up with in the inner city was going through a lot of pain from the crack epidemic,
Mm.
that happened in Los Angeles. So it's a lot of broken homes, a lot of families, broken, and it was just crazy. And I've realized like how many people that I grew up with had to harness this pain as a child and not even be vulnerable enough to tell anybody about it. And now that I'm older, I'm recognizing that a lot of, now we're grown men now. So a lot of my closest friends started telling me about their life. And I was just like, wow, man, like I would have had no idea you were going through stuff like that.
Oh,
Like it
yeah.
was, it's pretty intense. And it's like, and they have children now, like their parents. And I feel like when people become a parent, they start to look at life differently because it's like, wow, I was a child and I have to raise my child in the way that I was raised, but I don't want to do that. So I'm looking at life from like a different point of view so I could
Right.
change my mind and raise my child in a whole different way. And I've witnessed like countless, including my siblings, countless amount of parents do that. They
Yeah.
reflect on their childhood more and their pain and their trauma so they could be like, I can't imagine how a man could just not take care of his child, or I can't
Right.
imagine how somebody could say this to their child. I would never do that to my child, but that was done to me. And it's like a conflict, and I've been the witness of that so many different times. And I'm like, I want to write about this to help out, people in general that has been through like a lot of traumas and a lot of pain. And it's all, it's an overwhelming majority of people in the United States, it's
Oh,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
my podcast is about mental health, and I'm like, ooh, trauma doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a social class, it doesn't have a type. Man, you have no idea what somebody went through.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Well, and I think
Yeah.
sometimes too, I think like when we look at like generational like trauma and we see how it evolves and how it evolves that specific generation, even though it sucks at the time, even though it sucks when you're in it and you're a kid and it shouldn't happen, it's like it builds a certain part of your character that allows you to look at your perspectives so differently, like, and to be able to take yourself back and go, do I want to continue this? Not really. Do I want to create a
Mhm.
different lifestyle? Then I can, but how do I do it? Well, I have to think different thoughts, or I have to act and behave differently than my
Right.
parents did. So what would I have wanted, back then versus what I actually had? And then how do I behave in that manner? And so it's like, I think a lot of us, because of that, we are a bit more reflective over how we want to show up in the world, you
Mhm.
know? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's something I definitely want to do just to give back and just to help people because man, I've heard some traumatic stories, where people
right,
have good hearts, but then it's like, they can't help what they've been through. They can't help that they were treated this way.
right, right.
Yeah, and it's pretty, it's intense, but I'm just like, since I'm the type of person. It's weird though, because it's like people come up to me and they tell like even strangers and they start talking about personal things in their life. Like I've always been like that. And I'm just like, why are you even? But then if somebody was like, there's something about you that makes
Mhm.
them feel free enough to just start telling you these things.
It's a higher
Uh,
vibration. What they say that when you have a higher vibration where it's closer to that element of love, people
mhm.
can feel that, and so they feel secure and safe in that space, being able
Yeah.
to explain it and hand it over and share it. So yeah, I could
Yeah.
see that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's people, I'm like, oh, jeez, like I know how to take it now because I'm like, man, I've heard it all. Like,
right,
yeah,
right.
like it started when I was a teenager. Like girls I would be dating would tell me that they were sexually molested and all of these different things. And I'm just like, oh my God. But then I had to learn how to embrace what people tell me. Like, I'm not surprised anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, like
It's almost like
man.
you're there as that soft spot to land, but then you can change it. You can transmute it and kind of let it go. Help them let it go, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, and that's what I had to learn to do. Because it's not that it's too heavy for me, it's more so like Imma listen and Imma help you understand it from a different perspective, and, like, one of my friends just got caught up with a case where a woman said that he raped her because she was upset at him because he had a girlfriend or some stuff like that, and then just, like, recently, he told me that they dropped the charges. You know what I'm saying? But when he talked to me, I talked to him from a place where, like, man, you got to be strong. You don't know what's going to happen. She doesn't have anything on you anyway. Like, that you did not do this. So you have to your thoughts have to be strong. You know what I'm saying? And I felt
right,
like since I told him that, and I also feel like thoughts are powerful too, because it could go inside of the universe and then like bad things could happen based off of how you respond to a situation.
for
So
sure.
if he was panicking, if he was oh man, F that, I ain't do it, she trying to do it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
started to be filled with hate, rage, and all of these different things, who knows what would have happened.
right.
But if you take it where it's like, look, man, this happened, I'm gonna embrace it. I know I'm not guilty. I know I didn't do this stuff. The universe was like, you know what, man, I'm gonna just pull him out of this. Boom. You know what I'm
I
saying?
agree.
And he was like, I
Yeah,
don't even know why I'm talking to you about this, but I told my girl, like, we always have these conversations, etc. And I was just like, maybe it was just meant to be. You know what I'm saying? Because like who would want to tell anybody that they got picked up on a rape? But like nobody wants to tell any human being that. That's one of the worst things you could ever go to jail for. But
yeah,
yeah, that's just an example, but yeah, that's how it happens. But I'm just so glad that like the charges were dropped and it didn't go, they didn't go through with it, etc. But I felt like because he was internally such a good person and the way he came about it and the way he thought about it, and the way he harnessed it, it kind of was like, okay, no, I'm not gonna let this go. I mean, let this
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I so agree
Yeah.
because when your thoughts are powerful, and like from a manifestational standpoint, Abraham Hicks talks about like our desires being a stick. And so on one side of the
Mhm.
stick, it's what we want, the desire we
Yeah.
want, the desired outcome. The other end of the stick is the absence of it. And where we're focusing on like all the things that could go wrong, what you're doing is kind of activating that in the universe, that energy, that thing saying, here, bring this thing to me that I don't want because you're
Mhm.
so focused on it. Where if you switch your mindset and you're thinking more about like how you want this outcome to actually be, trusting and knowing in yourself that you didn't do this thing or that you can do this thing or whatever, then all of a sudden you're activating not only law of attraction, but law of assumption, letting the universe know, like, I'm moving in this direction. This is how it's going to work. And so
Right.
I really do think that the universe conspires to help us create that version. Like it's so open, it's willing to help us create things that we don't want if that's, where our mindset's going to go. But if we think about the things we do want, the outcomes we really need, it gives us that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And I also I'm a big fan of Abraham Hicks, but it's just like, man, every single thought that comes out of your mind is like critical to your like your well-being. But I do know I do have to embrace duality sometimes, but then it's just like, the higher self has to win because I'm not gonna lie, like I switch from my lower self to my higher self all the time. I know that that's there. But I feel
Oh
like your
yeah.
lower self is like there to protect you from certain things. So you have to be a little inquisitive about certain stuff and not be too vulnerable, not be too, you know, what do you call it? What is that? Trying to think about that word. Just don't be gullible, basically. You know what I mean? And it's
Sure.
easy to be gullible when you're going through life with love and understanding and compassion, and you could be taken advantage of and all of these different things. So it's like, you have to have something in place like a structure, which I prefer the 5 pillars of the militant grind to keep you grounded.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that makes total sense too. I mean, we're human, right? We're always going to have contrast coming into our lives, and we're always going to have to sift through it and try to figure out what does it get to mean for us.
Hmm.
But at the same time, it's, I think you're right. The pillars that you've built, it puts your mindset back into place. Like if you then take yourself out of like whatever the chaos is in that moment and go, okay, well, using the pillars, how can I create this in my mind in a better, stronger way? Now all of a sudden you have a place to springboard from that isn't going to spiral downhill, and it's not necessarily going to put you in a place of being gullible either. It puts you in a very grounded mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a Taurus, so being grounded is like all that I'm about. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my sign. But it's like, we often need something to reflect to that could, give us a foundation. And that's what I also talk about that in the intro. It's like we need a foundation that we could go back to no matter what it is. If it's religion, if it's spirituality, something I'll be like, okay, what are my basics? you know and
Yeah.
so that's what I provide. That's what I excuse me, that's what I provide as a starting point inside of the book. It's like, okay, here's a few basics you could start with. Remix it as you want, do what you want with them, apply them as you want. But then on top of that, I give real life examples that people could relate to, and also personal examples from my life, that I put out there as well to make it more human. Like I'm not just
Right.
writing about other people and people that I've observed. It's more so like, no, I'm gonna tell you about some times where I almost had a conflict, where I, messed up, or when I did this or when I did that. And I feel like when you come about it like that as an author, I feel like the reader has a different type of respect for you because it's like, wow, like I'm getting to know you. You're not just writing
Right.
about somebody else or an experience that you heard of. So
Right.
my style of writing is like I want to give you my perspective, like
Hmm.
what I feel, what I think. And I don't want to write it as like a research paper, like,
Right.
well, in this, this and this. I mean, I cite the Bible and things like that just to have some type of common ground. But, I love to write it's like, okay, I'm talking to you as a friend, I'm giving you my opinion. You may not agree, but this is just what I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of authors deal with a lot of self-doubt. Does the Militant Grind address like self-doubt, and like do you have any personal experiences where like when you were writing or in anything that you've been doing that you're trying to utilize the pillars to get over any kind of form of
Um,
self-doubt?
that will have to be strength and discipline. Because discipline will make you do it no matter what and just follow through with it, even if you
Mm.
do doubt yourself.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you do everyone doubts themselves, period. Well, I mean, I don't, but if you do, you can use discipline to keep you going, like strength, mental strength to keep
Yeah.
you going, self-love to keep you going,
So
honor
good.
to keep you going. It's like a lot of, I feel like every single pillar you could use to keep you going, because it's like, you know what? I know I'm not feeling this right now, but I made a commitment to myself that at 12 o'clock, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write this book and I'm going to just go through my thoughts. And I tell people, it's not that, it's not really how you feel before, because when you actually like sit down and you start and then you do something, you will get in the flow,
Oh
no
yeah.
matter what.
Yeah, yeah.
Like say, going to the gym, sometimes I don't feel like it, but when I start and I'm going, I'm like, okay, I'm in here now. You know what I mean? And sometimes we have to
Yeah.
get over the hump period, and so that comes with mental strength. It's like no matter what, you're not gonna control my feelings, don't control me, I control me. So I'm gonna put
Yeah.
myself through this. I'm gonna give it all that I got, and I'm gonna just keep going. If
Yeah.
you do have self-doubt, because sometimes it's not self-doubt, it's more so like how you feel inside that's stopping you, and it can be self-doubt, of course, but it's like, what's going on inside of you that's making you want to doubt yourself, making you want to stop? Maybe you don't love yourself enough,
Right.
to give
Right.
yourself the courage and the influence. So maybe you need to read the first pillar about self-love to get that confidence. Because if you love yourself, you have the confidence and the wherewithal to think that you could do anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
yeah.
feel like that's really because it's like, say, some of the men, that were boxers. I give an example of Muhammad Ali. He said, I'm the greatest fighter in the world, before he even won the title,
Yep.
and people hate cocky people or people that people that love themselves, like the greatest people, they knew that they were great. They loved
Yeah.
themselves so much that they embrace greatness. But then when they, talk about it, I'm like, hell, shit. I mean, they have proof. You know what I mean? So, but then
Yeah.
when they proclaim it, it's like, oh, they're this, oh, they're that. And I used to think about it like, man, I love cocky people. I love that. I
Right.
love people that are sure about themselves. Those are the people who I want to follow. Like
I think it's
I
because a
put,
lot of people are scared of that power in themselves. Like they know they have it, they just haven't embraced it. And so because they haven't embraced it, it's easier to point the finger at those who have, right?
come on, easy. Because it's like, why don't you just find something that you're great at
Right.
and you proclaim it? You could say, man, don't nobody bake cookies better than me.
Right. I
You
love
know what I'm
that.
saying? Your cookies ain't messing with mine. Here, try it. And I'm like, damn, these cookies are delicious. Oh my God. You know?
Right?
But
Yeah.
there's all kind of things where people could actually like say that and it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm the greatest at this. I feel like I'm the greatest at that. And there may be somebody better than you. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, if you're believing that and you're putting your energy into that, then something has to come out of it you
Right?
know? And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, as a kid, I loved people that were sure of themselves, that were cocky, so-called, that was like, I just loved it, like Michael Jordan and Muhammad Ali and who else? Mike Tyson was one of my favorites. He just knew that he was gonna go in there and knock somebody out. You know what I mean? But I
Right.
just love seeing champions and loved how champions think. And I feel like that is what resonated, in me so much. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like
Right.
they love themselves so much that they proclaim their destiny, and I feel like that's just powerful, you
It
know?
is. Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
that decision point where it's like no one's going to deter them from it. Like this
Right.
is how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Kobe Bryant was the same way. Like, he messed up his first game, and after the game, he went to a local high school in LA, Palisades, and he just started shooting in the locker room, for hours. He
Hmm.
was just like, "No, I'm not gonna let myself down like that. I love myself too much to let myself down like that."
Right.
Because it all
Right.
starts with love.
Right. And I think that ties back to like the idea of promotion and self-promotion or marketing or whatever, because so
Mhm.
many authors have such a hard time. They love the writing part of it. They love the publishing part of it. But when it comes to the self-promotion part of it, now they're getting hung up. And so it's like I think that pillar is probably the same then, right? Self-love. Would you agree that you have to
Yeah.
love your story, love your words, love what you do, and love your readers, I suppose, to be able to
Mhm.
then be authentic? Do you have
Yeah.
any other
Well,
advice on like strategies about marketing when it comes to the pillars?
um, marketing is kind of, well, because it's like I mean, you really have to be confident enough to, um, because that's kind of fun. Because like, say with me, right? I'm just so confident in the book that, it's in a store now. People actually purchased it inside of a store and they'll send pictures of me like, hey man, because it's in the store that is in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And people will be like, man, I seen your book in here, man. Wow, I seen this, I seen that. And I'm just like, I had enough confidence to contact them and say, hey, I want to put my book in your store. You know what I mean? Like, or just put it out there like, hey, somebody's like, hey man, where can I buy your book? Where can I buy
Right.
your book? Because of the way I talk about it, the way other people talk about it. You know what I mean? But if you really put your all into it, you should be able to promote it effortlessly to other people, or
Right.
even like give it to somebody for free just so they could read it and be like, hey, just let me know what you think about it. You know what I'm saying? So I've had enough feedback and enough confidence in myself to say, you know what, I'm gonna promote this on everything that I do. I'm gonna talk about it because I know that people are receiving it in a great way. And how dare I hold that back when I know that there were people that, were motivated, inspired, that, it changed their life and it changed their thought patterns. Like I would be a selfish person to not even talk about, this book to other people or put it out there
Okay.
to the world.
That is so good. I so agree with you. And to me it does though. It ties back to that love because you love that book and you know that the words are going to resonate so well with the people who are going to, pick up the book to be able to understand the pillars, to be able to get into that mindset shift. And
Hmm.
whether you're in fiction or whether you're in nonfiction, there's always something, some element that needs to get to the readers that's going to help them, even if it's just entertaining them for a little bit, or even if it's just showing them, a story that is going to put what they're going through in a better light or different light. I think every time we're writing something, it just has such an impact on readers that
Hmm.
authors forget that power sometimes. It's so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take you out of it. It's not about you. It's about you impacting others depending on like, what you write about. Cause it could be a cookbook and you can be like, oh, you should follow these recipes. I'm a great cook. I love cooking. I feel like this will be great for you, and yeah, you should check it out. Somebody will be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see you're passionate about it. You actually love it. I could see you love to cook, so why wouldn't I pick that book up, But I'm not gonna pick up a book of somebody saying, hey, I wrote a cookbook, you should buy it, and I'm doing it for money, and I'm not like passionate about it. Like, say, I have
Yeah.
interviews with a lot of authors, and one author, I was like, man, I have to get this guy's book because I know that based off of me talking to him, I know that he put some real information inside of this book. And there were people where I was a
Yeah.
guest of their podcast and they read it and they were like, oh my God, I love it, but I'm just like, wow, think about like how much it takes for anybody to just go on a website, purchase something with your name on it, take the time to read it. You know what I mean? Like, what is it about you that made them want to just make that move? You know what I mean? So it's like,
Right.
yeah, you have to really, be about it and embrace it and just like really put it on the line because you put it on the line for it to come into fruition.
Yeah. 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 I totally agree. And it's so powerful when you can embrace that part of your journey as well, like to be able to get over, like you said, get over yourself into the point of like realizing that this is bigger than who you are. It's meant to be impacting others and to get it out there and just to trust that the right people are going to find it, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And now like I tell somebody this. this past weekend. I was like, if you take yourself out of things, like it's really easy to be motivated and inspired to just do things, because it's like, say, they're like, oh man, how do you stay motivated to be in the gym? I'm like, okay, so let me think about this. I have a 2-year old at, I'm about to be 38. So I want to be able to live long enough for that 2-year old to, if that 2-year old decides to have a child at 38, I'm gonna be almost 80 years old. You know what I'm saying? Or like
Yeah,
whatever. So how am I gonna be at 80? And then it's like I want to be able to see my grandchild, walking, talking, like our grandparents were, more than likely at our high school graduations. You know what
right.
I mean? Like
Yep,
everybody, like they became great grandparents. So it's like you have to be able to take care of yourself so you can live a long, great life that, your grandkids and, your kids could be able to have access to you. And you could actually do things and be agile. Like it's not about you working out because you want to look a certain way or you eating right so you want to look a certain way. You're doing this so the people that love you could have you around, could get the
right.
best out of you, so the world could get the best out of you. And if you love them like you say you do right for yourself. Because
Yeah,
no son wants to look at his dad with his stomach sticking out, or like not looking strong. Like when I grew up, I looked at strong men, like, always strong. My grandfather looked strong until, he died at 75. Like you would have thought he was always in the gym. And I'm like, like your sons will end up, even your daughters will end up looking up to people that aren't you because of how you look. It's like, okay,
mhm,
I'm looking at, let's say, Captain America, and he's a hero, and I'm looking at my dad, and my dad is 250 pounds, and Captain America's looking like this.
right,
You know what I
right.
mean? So it's like, you really have to think about that. And my friend that I work out with, he's like, man, your kids got to look at you like a superhero. Keep going, keep. And that's how he motivates me to keep working out. And
Sure.
it's the truth. It's like my kids embrace me like I'm their hero. Like, daddy, pick me up. Daddy, look, I'm strong too. Daddy, look, I'm working out as well. And when I take myself out of it, it's just more easier to be consistent and more dedicated to my health. And that's actually the example that I had growing up. Like if I showed you a picture of my parents, you'll be like, what? Those are your parents? Like, yeah, because they work out, they exercise, they take care of themselves, so this is how it happened. I'm not gonna say that every one of my siblings follow the same thing, but it's like, if you had the example growing up, it's on you to, take that or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
it all feeds back around too, because when you're working out, you're increasing oxygen levels to the brain. Your brain is obviously important. You have bigger thoughts. You think of new things. Like it all feeds back, especially as authors. Like I've talked about how, drinking enough water and working out is so important because of the brain aspect of it. Like you're clearer thinking. You are more tuned into the universe. You are like you're just more capable when you are taking care of your whole system, you
Right.
know? Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. And like all of that plays a part, all of it does. And it's like, it's not about you. You know what I mean? It's never
right.
about you. It's about everybody else.
Yeah,
Because
and
you
the
could
connection of
inspire
it.
somebody by, and I tell this story, like, say, if I'm at the store, right, and somebody, or like, sitting down at a restaurant and somebody comes in, they don't say a word to me, but they just see me sitting there looking strong and fit, with the, tight shirt. So you can just see my body and everything like that. And I'm looking healthy and I'm vibrant. That person never says a word to me, right? But at the end of the day, since they saw me, something sparks in their mind to be like, you know what? I need to get in the gym. I need to start eating healthy. And their life basically changed just by looking at you,
Right?
and we could
Yeah,
impact the world, where it's like you don't have to know that you're impacting the world. Like somebody doesn't always have to tell you, man, you changed my life. It could be something where it's like that person doesn't know your name, they forgot what you look like, and they probably don't even remember that you inspired them. But I'm sure if they go back to be like, yeah, I just saw somebody, at the gym, and I was like, man, or at the store, and I was like, man, I need to, that person's looking good. I need to get on my stuff.
right? Right?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's like we can impact the world in such minimal ways by just being the best versions of ourselves.
I agree. So
Yeah.
for my listeners who want to like start incorporating the militant grind pillars into their daily lives, where do they start? Like how do they begin the implementation process of that? Is it reading the book first? Is it going to your website? Like what is the best way to be able to
I
learn
would
about it?
definitely say reading the book first and using the book as like a reference, you know?
Mm,
And basically, like after you read the book, it's more so like, okay, how am I going to incorporate this in my life for myself with what I want to do? You know, I'm not the type of person to say, hey, you should do this or you should do that. I feel like you should do what you were born to do, that you love to do, but just keep these basics in mind while you're doing what you love to do. You
right.
know, and some people be like, you know what, man, I'm feeling this kind of way. I want to go read the strength pillar. It'll only take me a couple minutes. And I'm just go and use that as a reference. Like, okay, yeah, now I'm feeling it. You know, oh, I don't feel like working out today, or I don't feel like, doing this. I'm gonna read the discipline pillar, and to see how I feel. So I often tell people is, you could read it and then I'll just be like, okay, how does it resonate with you? Because a lot of people will say,
Yeah,
you have to be like this, you have to be like that. I don't feel like there's a structured way to do certain things. Some things you have to innovate and you just have to do it on your own. And I'm not going to say, oh, if when you read this, you're going to, make money or you're going to be a millionaire. It's like, no, you're just going to feel good inside. And once you do that, fix your spirit, your mind, your body, then all of those other things are going to come.
right. Oh, I so agree with that. Okay, so looking forward, you mentioned that you've got a couple of books already in process, but do you foresee the militant grind philosophy evolving, or like what are the upcoming projects that you're working on so that my listeners know like what to be looking forward to as you're digging through all of
Oh,
this?
yeah, it is evolving. I'm gonna write, I have a book called No More Pain
Oh,
coming out, and then also I'm working on something where it's gonna be called The True Alpha Male, and
cool.
I'm gonna talk about like how, like what it really means to be an alpha male, and get over some of the misconstrued, like things that people say, like they think they're alpha, they think that this is an alpha, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna really let it be known what a true alpha male is,
Yeah.
so people could really decide if they want that heat or not, you know.
Now, is this like when you're saying the heat, are you talking about romance heat? Because all romance authors are all about alpha males.
No, nah, he was like, because like I said, I actually have a co-host of podcast called the Alpha Male Dialogues, and it basically says like when you're an alpha male, you have to be accountable for everybody and everything, and you have to take everything as if it's your own. It's not
Yeah.
that you lead like, oh, I'm gonna tell people what to do. It's like, no, you're accountable for lives. You're accountable for people. And if anything goes astray, you have to be the one to be on the front line,
Right. That
and it's more,
responsibility aspect.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
responsibility aspect. Like if you're an alpha male and I'm thirsty, you have to go get some water or figure out how I could drink some water.
Sure.
That's what true leadership, true alpha male is. And I don't feel like there's any levels to it. It's just what it is, Because
Yeah.
it's like you have to be the one to take charge for other people's lives. And I feel like people think that just because you're tough or you could beat somebody up or you could do these things, you're an alpha. It's like, no, that's not what an alpha is at all. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if I'm hungry and you're an alpha, you have to figure out a way for me to eat.
Sure. Yeah. Or at least lead me to a place where I know where to go eat and feed myself from now on.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
here's the pantry. Enjoy.
Right. Right. And that's
Yeah.
really what it's about. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna really put that out there to see, and then to also like tune people up,
Sure.
because it's like say
Yeah.
if like say when I mentioned that people come up to me and they tell me their life stories and things like that, and that's because I have an alpha personality where it's like, this guy is respectable, he's like vibrates with love, and honor and things like that, so I could go ahead and tell him this, and I'm sure he wouldn't use it against me, I'm sure he wouldn't put it out there, I'm sure he wouldn't tell people, you know what I mean, but that's what you do when you're, like say if you're in a tribe and somebody's an alpha, that you go to that person with your troubles, with your worries. Hey man, I really need this, or I really like, what can I do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's so
So
good. I
yeah.
think that's gonna resonate with a lot of people. I mean, the No More Pain is too, but I
Hmm.
think both together, like when combined with the pillars, even it's like almost like this triad of things that are really gonna help level up people in new ways.
Right.
That's really cool. Do you know
Thank you.
when these are going to be coming out?
No, no. I hope hopefully soon.
Not
I
yet.
need to
Okay.
I need to start the alpha mill like ASAP though. I'm a really like I want to get it done before May, because because I'm basically starting an experience where me and other men are gonna go in the wild and camp out and live in nature for a few days, and I want them to have that book,
Sure.
so it's like I kind of like, man, I want to have that book ready for when I actually do have the retreat. So I'm gonna start, I'm gonna really get on it,
That's cool.
but yeah, I don't put it because because once I do that, I'll put a lot of pressure on myself. I'll be like, you said this day, so it has to
Right.
happen, so I don't care
Yep.
what you got going on. You said this, stick to it. And that's the type of person I am. And
Yeah.
maybe I do need to do that to light a fire up under my behind, because trust me, like,
Right.
when there's pressure, like say, I had one guy I was gonna do some work for him, right? And usually I don't like taking people's money unless it's complete. But he was just like, no, man, what's your information? And he sent me the money, and I was like, oh God, I gotta do this ASAP. Like I had to
Right.
stop everything. I'm like, he sent me the money first. I got to get this done because I'm not gonna have anybody bothering me saying, "Hey man, I sent you the money, bro. Where's it at? Like what's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on?" You know what I mean? So the way to light fire, that's a way to pressure me, is to say, "Hey man, like, and you're not gonna put me in a position where you're gonna control me, just because you paid me and things like that." So yeah, I think I really do need to put a date on it now that you mentioned it. Because trust me, it's been an idea for a while.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and that's
definitely
kind
been
of
an
what
idea for a
happens. It sits
while.
and brews for a bit, and then all of a sudden it's like, nope, I've decided today is the day I'm setting a deadline. Let's go.
That's how it
Yeah.
has to happen.
Yep.
That is how it has to happen. But I'm gonna give myself like a couple weeks though. But yeah,
That's
you are
great.
absolutely right.
Well, and you even if you've got this podcast, you have like the perfect opportunity to like mine for gold through it. Like if you've had conversations, go through the transcripts.
That
Like
is true.
so many
Yeah,
good things that could already be kind of written out for you if you get the transcripts.
that's
So
true.
good
Yeah,
starting point.
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna make that happen for sure.
Cool. Cool. Well, I look
Yeah.
forward to it. If you do get it up, you'll have to let me know. Like send me a link because I'll share it with my audience too. That'll be
Oh, for
awesome.
sure. For
Yeah. So
sure.
where can my audience go, Sherman, to find you, to find out more about everything that you do, to get your book? Like where do they go?
Militantgrind.com has
So easy.
absolutely everything. Or you could just Google my name, Sherman Perryman, and all kind of stuff will pop up. But militantgrind.com is like the source for everything that I do.
Awesome.
And
Well,
I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on everything.
thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, your wisdom, and obviously talking about Militant Grind and all that it encompasses. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me, and this actually happened. I feel like this has been an amazing conversation. I've learned a lot, so I want to thank you for sharing your insight as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've
Yeah.
definitely learned a lot. I'm motivated just to like learn more myself. I want to get the book. I want to be able to dig through it, maybe pass it over to my husband. It's all good.
Yeah. Cool,
Cool.
cool.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.